Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about those group of five matchups that went on this past weekend. Definitely a lot of really fun ones, and it'll be interesting to see what those programs can do going forward with a lot of uncertainty around a lot of them, as there is pretty much every offseason for these group of five programs around the transfer portal. But let's get into the bowl games to watch for, because I know I know the playoff is the most important thing right now. I totally get that. I will definitely be leaning into the playoff for the next couple of weeks, but we got to give some love to bowl games. We can't be letting players think that bowl games aren't important. They are very important. They're another chance to get together with your teammates to go out there and play for each other. That's an important thing, and I want to make sure I push that as much as possible. So let's talk about some of the great bowl games that we have on deck, and we'll start with the Frisco Bowl between Memphis and West Virginia. To me, this is the start of the bowl season. There is a game between South Alabama and Western Michigan on this Saturday, actually, but that weird Tuesday game is when it really starts for me. That game that you just kind of pops up on your screen, you realize there's college football on, you get really excited. That's when bowl season really starts, in my opinion. So this is the kickoff to bowl season as far as I'm concerned. I am going to be watching South Alabama on Saturday. I promise you that. But at the end of the day, this is when I really think it starts. Neil Brown will not be the coach for West Virginia going into this game. Will be really interesting to see what happens, and be interesting to see if there's a coach in waiting just hanging out in the box. We'll see if it's Rich Rodriguez, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But the Gasparilla Bowl between Tulane and Florida, I'm really excited for this one. Darian Mensah has jumped in the portal, so it'll be a little bit different on the Tulane side in terms of quarterback, but let's be honest. We're all here to see number two to see number two in blue. I didn't realize that was going to rhyme, but more DJ Lagway is what I want. More DJ Lagway in my life is a very, very good thing. He is so much fun to watch. Cannot wait for this one. I think Florida's probably going to roll, but at the end of the day, it's going to be incredible to watch that one unfold, and it sets us up for a great one, Indiana Notre Dame. It's the start to the kickoff of the playoff. This one would be a nice little appetizer before we get into the craziness that will be the playoff. The Birmingham Bowl is the one that I am most excited for on this slate. I'll be totally honest with you, and it has everything to do with these two offensive coordinators, Tim Beck and Buster Faulkner. It has everything to do with this quarterback matchup right here. Diego Pavia against Haynes King. It might just be the grittiest quarterback matchup I've ever seen, if I'm being totally honest. Both these guys, if I had to describe them in one word, it would be gritty, it would be tough. I'm describing them in multiple words now, but I'm just going to use multiple words. Gritty, tough, resilient. They're so much fun. They're guys that you want to run through a brick wall for. They're guys that will run through a brick wall for you. Cannot wait to see what happens in this one. We'll see what happens with Diego Pavia. Still some questions around his eligibility going forward. We'll see if that has any effect on this game, but cannot wait to see Tim Beck and Buster Faulkner go at it the entire day in offense. The Liberty Bowl against Texas Tech and Arkansas, one of the games that I was able to find a picture for, actually, but really remarkable game that is going to be really fun, and a little bit later in the slate. You get down to all the way down to the 27th of December for this one, but it's a fun little matchup, no doubt about that. Sam Pittman is going to come back for 2025. I tend to believe that's the right decision around Arkansas, especially with some of the openings that you have right now and what it might look like next year. And then for Texas Tech, you have lost Zach Kittley. It'll be interesting to see who's calling plays for that and what happens with that offense moving forward. Definitely a lot of questions around there. Micah Hudson has walked out the door, so it'll be an interesting look into these two programs that definitely want to turn it around in 2025 and be real contenders in both those conferences. The Holiday Bowl against two of my favorite quarterbacks in this entire year, if I'm being totally honest. Kyle McCord has been incredible to watch after leaving Ohio State in not great circumstances by any means. He ended up being the top passer in the FBS. He was absolutely incredible this year. On the other side, you have a John Mateer that is going to run all over you. He's going to cause insane amounts of problems with his legs. The question is, will he be around for this game? He definitely is flirted with the portal. Looks like Oklahoma could be the team to watch there with Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator, going over there to be the OC for Oklahoma. We'll see what happens. Kyle McCord has said he's not sure if he's going to play yet. I really hope both these guys do, because it'll be a really fun matchup where one team is trying to run the ball to death, one team is trying to throw the ball all over the yard. Cannot wait for this one. Just got to hope that those two quarterbacks are there. If they're not, it will be a great look into what 2025 could be for Syracuse and Washington State. Texas A&M USC, one of the more marquee matchups in terms of brand names in this slate, and it is in Las Vegas, so gives a little bit of juice, a little bit of more juice to it. But it's going to be an interesting matchup more than anything else. And I think for USC, you're in a weird position when you're going forward with Lincoln Riley and all the different questions around that program. For A&M, this is kind of a launchpad point. If you were able to roll in there, beat USC by 14, 21 points, really assert your dominance, Marcel Reed has a great day. I think it could be a huge moment as you move forward in 2025. We've seen how these bowl games can really affect a team as they head into the next season with Florida State. You got to make sure that you don't let it negatively affect you if you're USC or if you're A&M. Two huge seasons going for them in 2025 and 2 years that I think both of them feel like they have a chance to compete. You got to be able to win this game. You got to be able to show people that you have that scalability as you go into 2025. Obviously, a lot will change around these two programs, but I still think when you talk about these bowl games, they're a little bit more important to the next year than we're realizing right about now. Iowa State, Miami, another really fun one here, and definitely one where I think opt-outs are going to be almost inevitable. And not to say that I think Cam Ward wouldn't play. I'd be a little bit surprised if I'm being totally honest. He is going to be a top 5 pick. He is going to be one of the top quarterbacks off the board. Tend to be the guys that walk out the door. I'm not necessarily saying that would be the wrong decision. Cam Ward is more than welcome to make whatever decision he likes. I would not be against him one way or the other. Would love to see him on the field. I'll put it that way. This would be a really, really fun game. Could get up and down if both these teams are at full strength. I definitely think it'll be an interesting one to watch with Cam Ward obviously on one side, but also Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel on the other side for Iowa State. So it'll be interesting to watch this one unfold over the next little bit, but regardless of what we get, it'll be an interesting look into these programs in 2025 and what Matt Campbell has going. If Matt Campbell is the coach when that thing rolls around, a lot of talk around the UNC job around him, and we'll get into that in more detail tomorrow. BYU-Colorado, I know this looks weird, and it is very weird, but at the end of the day, the Alamo Bowl still has a Pac-12 tie-in, and they still have to utilize that. Colorado got that this year, and they have a Big 12 tie-in, so BYU got that. So it's going to be weird. For the next couple of years, it's going to be weird to watch this unfold because you're going to get a lot of conference matchups. I just very much hope that they do one that we didn't see in the regular season, which is exactly what this one is. Cannot wait to see what these two teams are about. Obviously, Shedeur and Travis Hunter will be playing in this game. Deion has made that very clear. I expect Jake Ratzliff to go, so I think we're going to have a fun game. I think we're going to have two teams at relatively full strength, and it's going to be really fun to watch these two teams go at it. Iowa, Missouri, maybe the grossest uniform matchup we will get the entire time. No disrespect to either of the uniforms individually. When they're on the field at the same time, I don't know if I want to see that much yellow. But at the end of the day, it's going to be really fun to watch this one unfold and really confusing to watch this one unfold because there's going to be a few opt-outs on the Missouri side. I mean, Luther Burden has already entered the NFL draft. Don't know if he's opted out of the game. We'll see what happens there. A lot of different people to watch. Caleb Johnson also has declared for the draft. We'll see if they opt out of this game. I would be almost surprised if they didn't, if I'm being totally honest, but really talented guys right behind him. Cannot wait to see what Missouri has below that, especially on defense. Cannot wait to see some of these younger guys like Williams-Nowari step up in these big-time games and kind of get themselves ready for that 2025 season where both these teams very badly want to compete in their conference. We got a rematch here, one that I think they were just waiting. They were hoping that Michigan was going to be able to get into a bowl game because they were probably going to fudge the numbers to make sure that this one happened, and I'm kind of glad they did, if I'm being totally honest. But a rematch of last year's Rose Bowl. This time it's going to be in Tampa. It's going to be the ReliaQuist Bowl, so not quite as much juice, I'll be totally honest, but still going to be a really fun game. Michigan probably riding about as high as really anyone that's not in the playoffs right about now. You have Bryce Underwood. You have a lot of juice going into 2025. This, for me, for Bama, is just a culture check. I think there will be a couple of players that will opt out. I think there will be a couple of players that leave for the portal. There already have been a couple of players that have left for the portal. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But the reality is, this is about what Kalen DeBoer has. This is about this team and how tough they are. If they get beat by Michigan, then I'm officially worried about what 2025 holds for the Crimson Tide. I'm not right now. I would be a little bit worried if they drop this one because I'd be a little bit worried about what happens in that locker room after it. The Sun Bowl between Louisville and West Virginia and Washington is going to be a really, really fun one to get after each other. I think this one I'm watching very closely just because I think there's two teams in 2025 that can make a real run. You have Louisville, who looks like Miller Moss could be their quarterback next year. Tyler Shuck probably going to make his last start in college football, but the reality is I can't wait to see Isaac Brown. I can't wait to see both these freshmen. You have Damon Williams on one side, likely making his second start ever. Tyler Shuck making his last start ever. And then Isaac Brown is going to be so much fun to watch at that running back position, along with Duke Watson, the other freshman. These are two teams that, if they can put together a great performance here, launch themselves into 2025, you could very well see these two teams in the 12-team playoff next year. South Carolina, Illinois, two teams that I absolutely have loved to watch this year. South Carolina a little bit more later in the year. Illinois a little bit more earlier in the year, if I'm being totally honest. But South Carolina is probably the hottest team in the country. Illinois to me, it's probably the most disrespected. I think people still think that is a layup win, that is an easy win for a lot of teams. That was a really impressive win from Penn State. So I'll leave that there. I just wanted to give Illinois a little bit of love there, but it'll be a fun Big Ten SEC matchup. It'll be a fun matchup for a lot of people that like to compare those two conferences, and whoever comes out on top, whether it's valid or not, they will absolutely be talking about it in that respect. And Lenore Sellers is going to play in this game. There's no doubt about that. He obviously can't not play in this game unless they have some type of injury that pops up. But going to be a remarkable thing to just watch him go to work against a back end that's one of the best in the country. And then for Illinois, it'll be interesting to see what the team is. I do think Luke Altmaier will likely play in this game. Probably will be his last college start. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this one. And I think both these teams have the ability to score in bunches. Could be a really, really fun game, no doubt about it. The Texas Bowl, one of my favorites, is Baylor against LSU, and I think it's going to be a really fun game. I think there's two quarterbacks that really deserve. Garrett Nussmeier gets plenty of love. Sawyer Robertson is really the one that I want to give plenty of love to because he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 all year. He took over pretty early on in the year for Daquan Finn and just went to work. It was really remarkable to watch. Incredible player, really good with his legs. And then Garrett Nussmeier, a lot of questions around him going forward. I do think he will return for the 2025 season. If he does do that, if he does announce that before this game, putting up 300 yards and putting on a little bit of a show would not be a bad idea by any means. And then you do have Dave Aranda going up against the team that got him this job in that 2019 season. He was able to jump into that Baylor head coaching job. So a lot of stuff going into this game. Going to be interesting to see what that LSU team looks like after a lot of different transfers and different things. And then what Baylor has after a really remarkable year that they salvaged. Can they keep that thing rolling and get a big win over LSU? And then you do have the Gator Bowl all the way on January 2nd. You have the Gator Bowl against Duke and Ole Miss, and don't have lines for this one, actually, if I'm being totally honest. But Duke is a really, really interesting team. Went 9-3 this year. Played some ugly football at times, but got the wins when they needed them. Malik Murphy played a really, really good first year as a first-year starter. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in 2025. I assume he'll be in a Duke uniform, but in the world of the transfer portal, I don't think we can take anything for granted right now. And then for Ole Miss, it'll just be interesting to see how many guys suit up. I'll be totally honest. I do think that a fair amount of them will. I like to think that Jackson Dart will be out there. I can't promise that. I think there's a lot of players that are looking towards the NFL on this team, and we'll see how many of them stick around. So definitely will be an interesting matchup. Obviously, Manny Diaz trying to finish a remarkable year at Duke, get to that 10th win, and really put a stamp on this program. For Ole Miss, it's just about showing that you have fight. It's just about showing that you're not going to be the Florida State of this year, or Alabama the exact same. So a lot of different talk around this. Obviously, these bowl games have gotten tampered down a little bit. They've been a little bit less important. Guys start to opt out. There's a lot of questions around them. I still love the bowl games. I understand the playoff is where we all watch and where all the juice is. I totally get that. These bowl games are still very important. These kids getting another chance to suit up, to put on that jersey, to go out there with their boys. It's really important. I love them. I cannot wait to watch all of these unfold, and if anything, I will do my darndest to make sure that people understand that bowl games still very much matter in the world of college football. But at the end of the day, that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the social pages for all the content and updates you could possibly need. We have great people doing great work across every single sport you could want. So I understand CFP is a huge topic of conversation right now, but so is the NFL gearing up for playoffs. So is basketball. So is all of the other stuff going on, and we have it all covered around GSMC. So come on over and we'll have you totally covered. But thank you once again for listening. I will be back tomorrow with my full CFP predictions, with all of my issues for the CFP, with previews of the first round, a lot of different things coming on tomorrow's show. So I'll see you then.